Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to today's Fexa and Friends Network show. I'm going to give everyone just a few more seconds to continue joining us on the platform this morning. I can see people logging into the program. So we're just going to allow a few more seconds for a few more to join us before we get started. Okay. Yep, quite a few are coming on board. Great. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started this morning. And I want to again thank everyone for joining us and sharing a little bit of your day with us. We hope over at the Fexa and Friends Network that you are able to take away something from this and every Fexa Network show that you are able to use or at least expand your knowledge base in your professional life. I'm Dianna Hart, the host of the Fexa and Friends Network. The purpose of the Fexa Network is to be a place to offer education, best practices, and trend opinions to the multi-site facilities and service provider communities. If you have a topic that you would like to see on a future Fexa Network show, or if you would like to be an educator yourself, please drop me a line at fexafriendsnetwork@fexa.io. We hope you continue to support this growing effort to educate and uplevel the facilities management community by showing up and engaging with our topics. A quick note about Fexa, this program's primary sponsor. For those of you who don't know Fexa, we create smart, flexible, and easy-to-use facility management software for multi-site companies. Fexa transforms business processes into automations and workflows that find efficiencies to save time and resources. Fexa's data-driven asset management programs help companies track, analyze, and optimize repair or replace decisions. We also help companies track their refrigerant emissions for regulatory compliance and ESG reporting. For more information about Fexa or to request a demo, hop on over to fexa.io. I want to let everyone know that even though your mics are muted, this show is interactive. And if you have a question for my guest educator today, please type your question into the chat or Q&A window at any time during our conversation. We will get to as many questions as we have time for. If you have ever wanted to ask an expert about how AI will impact compliance and sustainability, today is your lucky day, so don't hold back. Because if it's on your mind, others are probably thinking about it too. And now we're going to turn to today's topic, AI and compliance, sustainability, and ESG reporting. Even though there's a lot of hype around AI these days, the reality is that the future will be impacted by AI-enabled technologies that will help ensure facilities enjoy increased efficiencies, reduced operational costs, and a more responsible approach to corporate and environmental stewardship. To neglect these critical areas of business creates legal risk and potential brand damage. And with that in mind, I want to welcome my guest educator today, Glenn Schrank, CEO of Phoenix Energy Technologies. There hasn't been a multi-site facility job he hasn't held. He has more than 30 years of leadership experience as a leader in the technology industry. He holds a degree in mathematics and teaches MBA courses at the University of California, Irvine. Welcome to the show, Glenn.
Thank you, Diana. I appreciate you having me on your show.
It's great to have you, and we do appreciate your time today. So let's get this kicked off and talk about insights on AI uses. Would you provide your insights on AI uses overall, especially in compliance, sustainability, ESG, and emissions reductions?
Yeah, first I'd like to cover the foundation of AI, artificial intelligence, to provide your listeners, your watchers, a view as we go into how to use this new technology for ESG, CO2 emissions in particular, and compliance areas. I'd like to share my screen if that's okay to pull out some graphics. And as I do that, I want to share that the term AI has been around for a while. It was actually coined in 1956. So almost 70 years ago was AI, artificial intelligence. And it really came about in the mid 90s in terms of the technology area that was invested in. And we're getting to the point where it's starting to become a portion of the technology landscape. I want to communicate that it's not a new term, and I'd like to demystify it a little bit as we start our show today. So let me go ahead and share my screen in a sense of pointing some areas out. All technology in terms of programming. Can you all see my screen, by the way?
Yes, we can.
Right. All technology, to a certain extent, with computers is based on mathematics, and having a degree in mathematics and a little bit of a nerd in this area, it certainly resonates with me. And that mathematics for computers is about algorithms. And an algorithm is, simply a set of instructions to do something on a specific problem or computation. So think about it in your world as a recipe for a cake, a method to solving long division or doing laundry. It's a sequence of events. And we talk about artificial intelligence, that is really an umbrella term in terms of bringing in the use of algorithms, an umbrella term. And there are some focus on the term, but the use cases have been around for quite a while. And so we've been using them every day. So think about things like a Google search engine or recommendation engine from Netflix, or Siri or Alexis helping out, and certainly the new chat GBT. And so we have been using it every day in our lives for a while. In order for artificial intelligence to be effective, the other underlying technology is machine learning. And machine learning is about grabbing as much data as possible and as much knowledge, domain expertise from people. I mean, artificial is artificial. And so that's dependent on the machine learning that feeds artificial intelligence. Again, some of these things are already happening. Product recommendations have been around for a while. Facial recognition has been around for a while, and even email spam filters have been around for a while. So to a certain extent, it's not a new concept, but it's certainly accelerating in its usage. We are in the hype cycle, and Gartner is a well-respected research organization. We are in the hype cycle of artificial intelligence. And this graphic is a good communication. If you look, it may be hard to see on the screen, but you can see these dotted colors here, kind of a light blue and a dark blue and a white kind of area. And white says less than 2 years, light blue 2 to 5 years, dark is 5 to 10. So you see this is mostly usage is in this dark area, and only a couple of the less than 2 years usage. So we are in what Gardner says, we're at the peak of expectations in artificial intelligence, kind of in this area. And invariably with a new technology, we're going to go through this area of inflated expectations and then ultimately disillusionment before this really becomes mainstream. So we are in this hype cycle, and it's good to have that perspective as we look at the applications and use cases around it. I do want to make a couple points along here that learning really depends on human knowledge, depends on people and their domain expertise. And so lots of the talk is around, is it going to replace jobs? It's not going to do that. This is an enhancing technology, as all previous technologies have been, to enhance people doing their work for the value for their organizations and society. And so wanted to share that with a foundation. And let me stop sharing. Should I stop sharing? Let's do that.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. Um, so then how does AI, so then getting back to my original question then, how does AI apply to, and do you see, what are your insights around its application to greenhouse gas emissions reductions?
So greenhouse gas emissions and other ESG areas of value, you really take a step back to the use cases associated with that, because reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and other ESG initiatives, as well as compliance, you're going to go back to the use cases. So from a facilities management perspective, that would be, how do I reduce the amount of truck rolls, repair and maintenance in my organization? How do I reduce the amount of CapEx buying new equipment in a most efficient manner? If I reduce the number of truck rolls, repair and maintenance, and if I reduce the amount of new equipment I buy, by default, I'm reducing the CO2 emissions and the parts and the products that are built and all the associated environmental impact on that. So a particular use case in the facility management areas, how does the customer get more predictive and proactive? What are the most important areas of repair and maintenance? So they're allocating resources towards that and allocating them more efficiently. And how AI does that is building on this use case of being predictive and proactive for repair and maintenance work, and being predictive and proactive with a preventative maintenance area. So, stack ranking the areas where you get the most focus. And because of the tens of thousands, 100,000s of data points and information coming out of facilities, equipment, and buildings for multi-site retailers in particular, culling through that amount of data and making correlations associated with that to point out the areas to allocate your resources effectively. And where AI can come in on that use case is to specifically learn from the history of the equipment and how it's performing, learn from what's the most effective repair and maintenance area, and put in a preventative predictive program that reduces the amount of repair and maintenance work orders, reduces the time on the roof, and in fact, alleviates some of the problems in advance, so you don't have that emergency truck roll, or you don't have that second or third truck roll from a facilities management area. That's one use case. Impacts CO2, impacts other areas of environment. The other use case is around CapEx, buying new equipment. So having an effective use case around what is the equipment that it needs to be replaced versus others. How do I really focus in on the ones that are going to have the biggest impact for the organization? And so a machine learning that's fed into an AI new technology can help with that decisioning process. And machine learning learns with a voluminous amount of data. The more data, the more effective machine learning and algorithms can be. So if you think about that decision around the four walls of data, the repair and maintenance history, which let's talk about Fexa since we're on this call. Fexa having that repair and maintenance history as a data flow, bringing in your energy consumption telemetry data. I'm with Phoenix Energy Technologies. This is the data that we pull in on a near real-time basis on a consistent, that second wall of data. The third wall of data being where was that equipment purchased and placed? What is it? What's its model number? Is it down in Tampa, Florida? Is it up in Minnesota? As the third wall of data. And the fourth wall of data pointed out by a customer was, well, if I'm in a lease space and I'm going to move out in 6 months anyway, I wouldn't want to replace a piece of equipment. So bringing in that data for the learning and the analysis, predictive, proactive, to identify just those areas to invest in CapEx. So reducing the amount of equipment that needs to be purchased, and business case justifying what does need to be purchased, reduces carbon footprint and other ESG factors is a use case. And then the third use case is under the energy management area, is to be more and predictive and proactive around reducing energy consumption, and reducing energy consumption around use cases of energy conservation measures, energy conservation measure strategies. And I'm reminded of an old saying that there are no new ideas, there are no new strategies. These strategies have been around for a while. It's just doing them more effectively by consuming the data and doing them quicker. And these strategies are things like temperature drifting. So 4 o'clock in the afternoon, commanding back to the building management system to say, well, let the temperature drift to 74 degrees for 45 minutes. That reduces a tremendous amount of energy consumption, and roughly for every pound of for every kWh measure of energy consumption that's being reduced is roughly a pound of CO2 that doesn't go in the atmosphere. And reducing energy consumption on peak time, which the measure of kWh, look at a utility bill and you've got that tier pricing. Well, that's because everybody's consuming energy at the same time. That happens to be some of the dirtiest power that's being generated upstream. That's where power plants use coal, sometimes petroleum, so it has a double impact in terms of that around these strategies. Temperature drifting, economizer, which is a word for bringing in outside air, load rolling, moving the work of, let's say, air conditionings on the roof or heating conditions on the roof, cycling it so that you're reducing both consumption and times of use. So this third area, and AI can help enhance what is happening already with some of these major strategies. And then I think I'd like to bridge this to compliance and bridge it to health and safety. And so consuming the data associated with sensors, advanced sensors in the building environment is very important to the health and safety area. So sensors that are tracking the air quality. So post-COVID is very important for the environment, for the people that are in our buildings to feel safe with their air quality. So bringing in that air quality data for the use case of keeping it within a range that's acceptable for human beings. And then compliance around product loss, food, other areas, bringing in that consumable data so that actions can be taken to reduce spoilage, quote unquote, food loss, product loss, and there's other areas, and that has an environmental impact. We all can imagine and we all see how much food is wasted in our environment, and that food waste is a tremendous environmental impact. And so the opportunity to reduce that through the use case of bringing in the data and then consuming that data with the assistance of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and enhancing technology to areas that are already being done within multi-site retailers.
Wow. And I think the follow-up question for all of this is, how easy and or difficult are all of these different data points that are collected? Is it to report on or aggregate for ESG reporting purposes and compliance purposes, as there is, of course, new regulations coming at businesses, especially publicly traded businesses that we see coming at us. And so all of these things are going to definitely be concerns for them. So how will they be able to report out on so many different areas of sustainability and compliance through all of these great AI successes and accomplishments?
So insightful comment and question, Dianna. And you reminded me of California just passed a reporting and regulatory law for reporting regulatory through financial reporting that is not only scope 1 emissions, which is what you do as an organization, as a retailer, but scope 2 emissions, which is how you use your suppliers. And the statement applies to any company that's doing business in California. So a multi-site retailer by default eventually does business in California, and then this is being taken across the country. So if our customers and listeners today aren't already feeling the pressure for reporting, it's going to come even stronger as this law gets rolled out. And there's one thing about doing reporting. And so reporting, there are applications and solutions out there. Our company has one in particular around carbon management, but there are others that will pull together the data that's coming out of the systems of facility management through Fexa systems, as an example, or through our technology to aggregate that carbon data, to translate it into numbers. A simple example being, for every kWh that you don't consume, Ms. Customer, that's roughly a pound of greenhouse gases. You just do the math and it goes into a report. For every truck roll you don't do, every repair and maintenance work order, or the reduction of time gets into a reporting environment. So there are reporting solutions out there, and it behooves our listeners to investigate them. The important point is, well, it's one thing to report it, it's another to do something about it. And right. The pressure now is going to become, especially with these proclamations, these commitments by executives in companies. In our companies, we're going to be carbon neutral by 2030 or zero by 2050 kind of proclamations. Well, how are you going to do that? And how are you going to make an impact right away? So there are solutions you can implement right now, software, primarily a layer on top of hardware infrastructure, to take your carbon reporting and your anomalies and your outliers, and then lead it to actions. What exactly am I going to do to reduce it? And then with the actions, to be able to report on those actions. Now, within our industry, CMMS and EMS, are acronyms. We certainly have these modules, these software programs to do the reporting, and then the actions associated with that. But many customers then also have another sustainability reporting platform for all kinds of other things. And so there is the ability to take these technologies and solutions and then turn it into a data as a service type of offering that can be then consumed and fed into an overall corporate sustainability dashboard.
Fascinating. Yeah, because clearly, if you can't report on it, then that's a problem. And so that a lot of times you have to almost work from the point that you need the questions answered backwards to understand what systems that you need to put into place and what data that you need to aggregate from the very beginning. And
well
so
said.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Well said. I remember an old saying, what gets measured gets done.
That's right.
Start with measuring it, get visibility.
That's right.
Expand visibility, and then take action on it.
And you can't change what you can't measure. You can't work towards what you can't measure. And you can't strategize against what you can't measure. So thank you for that, Glenn. How do companies gain a competitive edge when they're looking at the utilization of AI-enabled technology? Because obviously there's compliance and regulations around potentially utilizing this technology to get the work done and get it work done more efficiently. But at the end of the day, companies have to turn a profit and they have to compete. And so I think this is another factor that sort of weighs heavily on their minds. And so what are your insights around becoming more competitive in the marketplace with the use of AI technology?
I think where I'd like to start with this is, what are the four components of taking advantage of this technology, and then bridge to how it affects companies from a competitive standpoint and an economic standpoint, as ultimately companies, for the most part, in the business of making money.
Right.
In order to have an effective use of AI technology within these four areas is data is one of those areas. And so having a robust set of data for your own organization on repair and maintenance history, on your assets, on your energy management area, and then what other data is available. And so your vendors, your partners, your providers, Fexa as an example here, our customers at Phoenix Energy Technology not only have access to your data, authorized access to your data, but access to data across a broad customer base, redacted, not names. And with authorization, you can take that data and put it into a broader data set. And so AI is better when it has a broader data set to bring in that. So the more robust data you can have and the more relevant data you can have is a better effective use of that. The second part of it is that domain expertise matters. It really matters. And so facilities managers in your organization, energies managers in organizations, culling out their domain expertise to be able to understand how they view leveraging this technology to enhancing the jobs they're doing and getting a more effective outcome. And in this area, you've got domain expertise from your own teams, but also domain expertise from your service provider partners like Fexa, or in our case, Phoenix Energy Management, or other service providers. You have input from your peers in the organizations. Other organizations say, how are you doing things? Connect's conference next week is a good example for the networking. So domain expertise and knowledge around that. The third area, like other technologies, is scalability matters. And what I mean by scalability is I've been in the technology business for several decades, and it's actually kind of easy, not kind of, it can be easy to show a slick demo. It can be easy to prototype something. It can be easy to say, well, I've done this in 10 buildings and here's what it looks like. That is completely different than scaling a technology across hundreds of buildings, tens of thousands of pieces of equipment. I was with a customer the other day that said, well, we have 80,000 HVAC units. And so the ability to understand how to scale the technology and not necessarily get bought into the hype or the sizzle of seeing something that's kind of cool, as opposed to it's got to be industrial strength to roll out. And then last but not least, I think is innovation. This is back to the people in terms of AI can learn with a lot of data. Domain expertise can get it going. It needs to be scalable, otherwise it's going to fall apart. And by the way, there's a lot of risk in rolling out something that's super automated and doing something you don't want it to do. But then how to innovate going along is back to the domain experts, the people, employees, your partners, your network on innovating new ideas, and then very, very specifically testing them very microly to reduce the risk. Now, where this feeds into within the organization and back to making money, essentially, leveraging this technology for the ultimate outcome, which is reducing costs. Yes, that makes you more competitive.
Right.
Being more efficient, small band of brothers and sisters, running these organizations, never have enough time, never have enough resources. How can I effectively do that? And there's some proven metrics coming out of the financial community that if you are an ESG organization, your stakeholders, meaning your consumers, your customers, your investors, that your stock price is higher. And so there is an advantage to being a compliant and an ESG company. I'm not sure I answered all your questions in there. Make sure I checked them off, Dianna.
Yeah, I think that it's a simple question. It's a complicated answer, really. And I think that those companies that really leverage ESG compliance, especially around the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and that really make that part of their brand, really do well, because a lot of people are very concerned about where they shop these days, and they want to make sure that they are investing in businesses and working with businesses that align with their own personal goals. And that's important to people these days, especially younger generations who are really interested in things like climate change and things like the environment. And they will often just produce more loyalty around the brands that are also concerned about those things as well.
That's
So
well,
that also gives them a competitive edge with certain audiences too.
that's well
And
said. And I want to take your words and turn it into dollars. So,
yeah,
they'll vote their voices with their dollars or pounds or, whatever. As they go into
yes.
stores, they'll go to stores and buy products from companies that have ESG area, and they won't to others. So it turns
Yeah.
into the
Even if
financial
it costs
statement.
more, sometimes they'll
Yes.
spend a little bit more money in order to support the brands that do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so as we get closer to the end of our show, I want to talk a little bit about how AI for a lot of businesses does sound a little intimidating. You talk about a lot of different data points and the aggregation of those data points and the collection of those data points. So one thing I would like you to touch on a little bit is the approachability of using this technology. And what are some best practices or suggestions about what an organization should do if they want to start approaching or taking one bite of this elephant at a time in order to be realistic in adapting or bringing in a lot of AI technology over the course of time reasonably, and something that they can use and integrate and scale with beyond the hype cycle that's happening right now, so that they don't overspend or overinvest, and make the best use of it for their particular businesses.
So as we dive into this area, some best practice approaches and considerations. Cautiously pragmatic approach. Be cautious because of the risks associated with this new technology, and very pragmatic would be a suggestion. As we covered earlier, the data is important. The amount of data, the knowledge about the data, domain experts are important both within your organization and your service providers. So utilize your existing and well-established vendors, providers in our industry. There's a lot of upstarts making very outrageous claims on the use of this technology. But at the end of the day, the big tech companies, the Microsofts of the world, are coming out with more and more tools on how to use this technology so that it'll be easier and easier every day and every month and every week. And so your existing providers and other well-established providers are the ones that are best suited to leverage this technology. They know your environment. They know the environment of customers that are similar to use in the marketplace. And the considerations along with this is like any investment, it's got to make good ROI sense. It has to have a return. And so look at these projects in terms of very strict, cost benefit ROI analysis, business cases. It's got a lower overall operating costs in, maintenance, energy, CapEx purchases, while not sacrificing, comfort, compliance, health, and safety, and put significant rules and guardrails around the use of this technologies, especially in the early portions. Test extensively, make sure this really works before rolling out at scale, which could have some negative impacts. It's not necessarily. I don't feel it's necessarily dissimilar. That's a double negative, I think. Dianna, you can add to other emerging technologies over the last decades. I'm reminded a little bit when the web first came out. For those of you that are a little more seasoned like I am, it was, wow, what a technology! It's going to change the world. And we had the internet bubble, and if you wanted to build a website, you'd have to have a really skilled programmer, and it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now, a website can be built by a 10-year-old. And so, it's an adoption curve. And we want to take a very cautious, pragmatic approach and layer it on top of what you're already doing as an enhancer to your programs.
Makes total sense. So if you could just sit back for a moment and imagine the future in a multi-site facilities environment where there has been the right pragmatic adoption of AI and ML into their own environments. What might that look like in a future state when all of these things are put together the way that they should be and they have a sustainable business practice and they are ultimately optimized against everything that they need to do for compliance and sustainability, and they have it all figured out with their ESG reporting as well? What might that look like in a future state to you?
Well, I think optimize is the word that I would emphasize, that you said that we're in an optimized state. There's not a lot of things being done differently. So the work that's being done in facilities management and energy management is not necessarily done differently. It's more optimized, it's more efficient, and it's more cost effective. So lowered costs, been more efficient, meaning people's skills have been enhanced. The use of the technology enhances what they have to do. So they can do twice as much or 3 times as much as what they've done in the past. And that the exhaust, I'll use that, the data exhaust for the use of this technology around facilities and energy management operations is just a natural byproduct that feeds supporting the goals of ESG and compliance.
So you sound optimistic about AI and the future in terms of
I'm optimistic about the use of technology, as I have been for decades. The use of technology to enhance what people do in their jobs and the value that's provided within their organizations to their customers. And I see AI as just another step along that journey. And 10 years from now and 15 years from now, there'll be another technology that comes along that will enhance what we do as people day to day.
Right, right. But AI is a mechanism and a tool that can be fed into so many other new types of technology that I'm sure that we haven't even dreamed of yet. But it sounds like the underpinnings of AI and ML will probably always be with us and be applied in lots of different ways that we haven't even thought of yet. So it's not going away, to be sure.
Yes, that's well said.
So we can't be afraid of it.
Mm-mm.
And it's not going to take our jobs, but we need to understand it and know that we need to start figuring out how to apply it. And that goes for all of us, no matter what our positions are or our businesses are or our functions are within those businesses. So well said, Glenn. So I think that's really all we have for this show. We didn't have any questions really coming in today, but I will be providing information on how to contact Glenn or Phoenix Energy Technologies in the show wrap-up email that I will be providing for everyone. And I want to thank everyone for coming to the Fexa Network show today. I hope you will. I hope you're able to take away something interesting with you and something that you can apply to your own businesses from Glenn's excellent advice and presentation today. As I said, we will be emailing everyone a link to the recording of this show. And you can find this and other recordings of Fexa Network shows on the Fexa website and our YouTube channel. And we'll also we also have a free resource library on the Fexa website under the Fexa resources menu, and that can be viewed at any time 24/7. There are also links there to upcoming future Fexa Network shows that you can register for. So be on the lookout in for future invitations to future Fexa Network shows in your email box, and we will see you at future shows. Thank you, and have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye. Oh, hang on. You know what? We might have had a question come through. Oh, it's a Fexa question, and we will take that one offline. I will be getting back to you. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.